International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority and supported by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Now, free and easy movement of people is as crucial as easy movement of goods and services in the management and promotion of international trade. The tourism sector's importance in international trade cannot be overemphasized. It's the backbone of several economies worldwide. The tourism sector is one sector that depends heavily on free movement of people. Therefore, restrictions on movement, which was adopted as part of measures to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, affected the tourism sector greatly. Today, as nations across the world, including Ghana, are starting to ease travel restrictions, we want to find out, will this perhaps give Ghana's tourism industry the boost that it needs, as the sector has been heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Anaspio and this is International Trade Focus. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority. They say sharing good fortunes. Go, good energy, ADB, Truly, Agric, and more. International Trade Focus is also supported by Pediastic Valley Resort. We'll be back shortly. The CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Akwesi Agyeman, joins us on our in-depth segment. Mr. Akwesi Agyeman is the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority and our guest for today. We're going to take a look at the impact of COVID-19 on our tourism industry and also the reopening of our international airport, Kotoka International Airport. Is this going to make a difference in the current state of Ghana's tourism industry? Hello, and thank you so much for having us once again.
Thank you for coming.
Right. So I believe the last time we were here, we wanted to take a look at the impact of COVID-19 on Ghana's tourism sector. And it was too soon to actually tell the situation on the ground. We made some speculations and some projections into the future. A few more weeks have gone by since our visit. Can you tell us, at this moment, the current state of Ghana's tourism sector?
Well, thank you once again. I believe before COVID, we could say our tourism was on a high. Just after the year of return, Ghana was on the map. Everybody was talking about Ghana. The arrivals in the first quarter of this year was quite strong. Just about the same as we had in 2019. So we were very, very positive because normally January, February are slow months. But this year we didn't see that. We saw groups coming in, and so we were very, very hopeful that 2020 was going to be an even better year for us in tourism. If you take the first quarter, we had over 240,000 arrivals, which was almost the same as 2019. But you must also know that even then we had about 2 weeks of March where our borders were shut. And so the numbers were looking very good. Now, come COVID, hoteliers especially started closing down because people were not coming into town, especially the upmarket hotels. If you take 3, 4, 5-star hotels, most of them depend on international arrivals into the country. Most of them depend on conferences, AGMs, and events. And so to the extent that public gathering was banned, it had a very, very negative impact. I mean, when we did a calculation somewhere around May, about 25%, which is close to about 979 or so hotels, had closed down countrywide. And with it came the attendant staff being asked to stay at home. Borders were shut. And if you take, for example, the number of airlines coming into country, if you take, let's say we have 35, and the average crew is about 10 or 11. So on every given day, if the airlines are coming in, you have 350 or so rooms that are booked in some of these hotels for airline crew alone. And so to the extent that for about 5 months, our airport was shut, you have all these losses coming in. And then also the issue of staff. Most of the hoteliers complained about their inability to negotiate with staff, because some of them wanted to pay staff 50% because they were not working, and staff through their unions were not willing to play ball. So we had to come in working with the ministry and the Ministry of Employment to now start some conversation. Then you had the issue also of the tourist site itself. The fact that international arrivals were not coming in and also the local sites were also locked down meant that technically, if you take out, let's say, the fast food chains and some chop bars and restaurants, the rest of the industry was virtually on lockdown. But thanks to the foresight of our president and his leadership, we started seeing some gradual easing of the measures. And so we started with the restaurants being open, the hotels being open, the tourist sites being open, and now the airport, which is a master stroke because, like I indicated to you, even if we only have the airline crew, the upmarket hotels will start seeing 10-15% occupancy, and then you gradually will be able to pay your bills. But we are not out of the woods yet, because globally, every country that has opened up at some point in time will either see a second round or a second wave. So we are cautiously optimistic that we will be able to hold our own with the measures that have been put in place. But it's good. We are very, very happy that at least we've given that signal that our borders are open and people can come into country.
During the COVID period, government introduced the stimulus package, and the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture also launched its own fund to support the small, medium enterprises in the tourism sector. How did industry players receive this message?
Oh, it was good. I mean, even before the stimulus package, you remember in March, the president had given free electricity, free water, and then percentage of electricity. So it all was going to help assist in managing the cost base, because for some of them, you have fixed costs that whether you are open or not, you will have to pay. For example, the big hotels, you always have your ACs on, I mean, just because of the weather and all that. And so these were difficult times. So for the president to have given that package, electricity, water, was good. Then he followed up with the MBSSI, COVID alleviation program, which was quite good. So about 1 billion cedis for the small sector, the small business sector. And that's ranged from people who were small-time caterers, from chop bars to tour operators. And it has also gone in to assist. But like I indicated, what we want is for businesses to run on their own. And then we had the Ghana Tourism Development Program grant, which was also a 54 million cedi facility. But these are grants. And so currently, I think as of the end of the first window, we had about 1,400 and plus applicants, out of which about 600 or so were shortlisted to the next stage. And then I think very soon there will be an announcement of the first recipients of these grants. That some of them will go into site upgrades, some will go into business enterprise support, and then some will also go in capacity building and training. And so these will also come in to assist. Then we have the 2 billion city facility, which the Minister of Finance announced during the mid-year budget review, and that is to go for the upmarket facilities, because like 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels, big restaurant chains were not eligible, so to speak, in the MBSSI package. So this is their turn to now look at long-term planning, how they can utilize these facilities to keep their businesses going. But our happiness is in the fact that the borders are open. And so for most of them, once we start seeing events happening, workshops, conferences, awards, and all that, you see the accommodation sector rebounding. And that is really where the lockdown is currently is.
Okay, let's now take a look at the reopening of our international airport proper. Countries around the world, including Ghana, have started cooling, I will say, the restriction on movement and travel and all of that. So now that Ghana has reopened its airport, international airport. Do you think that is going to have any impact on the current state of our tourism industry, considering the fact that people are still scared to travel?
People may be scared to travel, but these are very good steps that have been taken. If you take tourism, it thrives on about 4 or 5 things. One of them is access. So no matter what you do, if people cannot access your destination, there's no way they can enter the country. Then they won't come. So the fact that the borders are open itself, the airport is open, that takes the access point. So now if you want to come, you can come. Now, number two, that also starts some serious conversation. Even if you take the airport itself, how many restaurants are in the airport? How many bars and all those that are there that were shut down since March? So all these things are operators in our industry, and so for the fact that they can now go back to the airport, start trading, it's a good sign. The coffee shops, the restaurants, the waiting, a lot of businesses, the car rentals and all that. Then you start looking at also Ghana's quest to be the mines hub. Now we have the Africa Continental Free Trade office here in Ghana, and per our checks, every year we should anticipate not less than 20 big conferences coming out of that. So if your airport is not open, you cannot be that player who is touting continental free trade. And so that is a good signal to give. You know, a lot of the things that need to happen then would then be planned. So people had not planned to have big conferences here because they didn't know when our borders were going to be open. Now that it's open, people have started planning. We know already that if you go to the hoteliers, they will tell you they've started seeing some massive bookings in December. It has not translated into actual payments yet, but people will book first and then later you give them a time to come and pay. So that is also a good sign. Then you take, like I indicated to you, the airline coming in, the staff, where they will stay, businesses that will have to operate. So I think in all, that is a very, very positive first step that we had to take. The rest we are working with industry on. So now we have to start stimulating demand. And that is why 2 days ago we unveiled the pillars of Beyond the Return, because that was really a big game changer for 2020 and beyond. The fact that we were building on the year of return, the success of it, and inviting the global African family to come back home was something that was always going to play out very positively in 2020. Then COVID came. Now the borders are open. We've gone to rekindle the initiative, and that is what we did 2 days ago with the senior minister there, the Minister of Tourism there, and I think already we started seeing people wanting to come. In December definitely will be very, very massive for us in the country.
So you're optimistic that despite the COVID-19 panic and fear all over the world, the events that you've planned for Beyond the Return will be a success, just as the year of return was?
Oh, we probably will not get to the same level of the year of return. I mean, honestly, because one, people needed time to plan. And so we are in September. We just opened our borders, so it might not be the same. But we will bring in some numbers, some significant numbers, and some significant people will also come. Last year, for example, you know, Steve Harvey's entry into Ghana was a grand an occasion for us. One, because he was very positive about the destination Ghana, and also became an ambassador, because when he went back on the show, every time I was talking about when I went to Ghana. These are things that normally we wouldn't be able to pay for. And so we are looking to attract people of that caliber to come back. You know, the Congressional Black Caucus were also here with Nancy Pelosi and all of them. And so we are trying to attract that caliber of visits into the country. And so once that happens, it will then immediately start having that ripple effect that we are looking for. But for now, our focus is domestic tourism, because we realize that, yes, the numbers internationally we need, but we also need a balance. I mean, we've seen since 2017 a growth year on year in the number of people visiting tourist sites. And interestingly, about 70% of the people who go to every tourist site in Ghana are Ghanaians. And so the domestic tourism is still a mainstay. Only that we always count the international arrivals as the icing on the cake, because once they come in, maybe hotels get more business because a lot of domestic tourists will go. Maybe you will visit Cape Coast and probably stay with a friend or family, whereas international arrivals, 9 out of 10 will stay in a hotel. So it's finding the right balance, but still I think the numbers are going to look good for the last quarter of the year.
I think if the COVID-19 has taught us anything as a nation, is the fact that we need to look within. So it's good that you're trying to boost local participation in visiting tourist destinations. You mentioned that personalities such as Steve Harvey, Nancy Pelosi coming into the country during the Year of Return program sort of put Ghana on the map. So what are you doing? What extra thing or things are you doing to ensure that, yes, there's COVID-19 in the world right now and people are sort of scared to travel. But with Ghana, once you're visiting us, it's not going to be like a hassle. So it's going to be a hassle-free process. And I believe things like this will even encourage more people to come. So the Ghana Tourism Authority, together with relevant stakeholders, what are you doing to ensure that passengers that are coming into Ghana go through a hassle-free process?
I think one, we made a very strong statement when we got our protocols signed off by the WTTC, which is the World Tourism and Travel Council. And so Ghana was given a safety stamp. And we are one of the few African countries with that safety stamp. So that globally has indicated to travelers that if you want to go to Ghana, it's a safe destination. They are following the protocols. The protocols are in place. And it was quite a hassle getting that stamp because we had to show all the protocols in our various tourism subsectors, hospitality, if you go to restaurants, the protocols that were in place for events and all that. So once that got signed off and that big announcement was made that Ghana was a safe destination, people had that confidence. Plus now, the protocols that we put in place at the airport is really something that other countries are even learning from. I mean, once we started, I think the UK said, okay, they will also go by the same. So you don't have to do the 14-day quarantine. You come in, you do the test, plus you do the pre-test before coming. It has made this destination slightly expensive. Because now, on top of your fee, the visa and ticket, you probably will have to pay another $150. If you also had to do a PCR test before coming, that probably also in other places, maybe another $100 or whatever. So it's made it a bit expensive. But the attractiveness of the destination is what is driving people to come. I mean, already we know that the people who had lined up, when we had a very, very good lineup of people who wanted to come, and they have indicated that they will come. And so we're confident that by October, getting to November, we'll start seeing some big players come into destination. And that's why, like I indicated earlier, we are optimistic cautiously that if we can keep what we've started, it's been about 9 days, 10 days since the airport was open, and so far it's world class. I mean, I've seen videos going viral of how much people are talking about the protocols at the airport. We're keeping the social distancing, the test is swift, the service is awesome. And so we hope that working with the Ghana Airports Company, the Ghana Immigration Service, we can keep that level of excellence and then trigger the reaction that we are looking for. But travel is a multi-sectorial business, and so we are hoping that all the other legs will come on stream. I mean, so we're hoping, for example, that eventually the land borders will also be open, because recently the trend has been multi-destination travels, and so people will come to Ghana, want to go to Togo, want to go to Benin, want to go to Cote d'Ivoire, but those borders are still not open yet. So it will be there. We will get there, because like we've been told, and the president has been very, very emphatic that he's basing his decisions on data and science. And so far, all the decisions have been spot on. And so we're hoping that in good time, when the data changes and the science follows, we will get the land borders also open so people can then start moving in and out to show up the numbers that we need. If you take, for example, the areas like the Western region, the Lubo area and all that, you have a lot of people coming in from Cote d'Ivoire for weekend relaxation at either Maha or any of the beach resorts. Same in Volta region, people coming in from Nigeria by road and all that. And so it's a process. But the events of recent times, the opening of the borders and the opening of some of the restrictions, easing of the restrictions on some of the facilities is something that holds well for us, and we hope that we can build on it.
Right, if you just tuned in, you're watching International Trade Focus, and this is our in-depth segment. We're taking a look at the impact of COVID-19 on Ghana's tourism sector. And with the reopening of our international airport, the Kotoka International Airport, is it going to make any difference in our tourism? We'll be back shortly after this break.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country. Acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us?
Partner.
Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Gold Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goyle has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. Goyle. Good energy.
A warm welcome back. Our guest on our in-depth segments today is the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Mr. Akwesi Agyeman. I know that the restriction on movement has been something difficult for the tourism sector. The UNWTO continues to talk about the fact that that has had an adverse impact on the tourism sector. So they are calling on nations to gradually cool down on the restrictions so that tourism can go on, but in a responsible manner, of course. So let's take a look at the role that tourism plays in international trade. I know that cannot be overemphasized because according to the UNWTO, international tourism, travel and passenger transport included, accounts for over 30% of the world's exports and services and 6% of exports of goods and services. So clearly, tourism plays a huge role in international trade, and for countries, developing countries like Ghana, it's something that we cannot do without. It's something that we cannot do without. So the Ghana Tourism Authority, I always say, together with relevant state institutions, COVID-19 has happened and it has had a devastating impact on our tourism sector. So going forward, what are some of the lessons that we've learned from this, and how are we ensuring that this crisis does not become worse than it is at the moment?
One big lesson is the need to really digitize a lot of the things that we do. Our system as a tourism industry for a very long time has been too manual focused, if I should put it that way. And so you have a lot of hotels where people will still cannot book online. So we're trying to get them on stream. We had a project ongoing, started some years back, the single window, where we brought everything into one architectural frame. But with COVID, we've had to now speed up because you can do a lot of things digitally that we still were doing manually. And so if you go to most of our sites now, people still do everything manually. You have to pay cash and all that, and that's probably cold fuel the spread. And so we've had to quickly look at how do we digitize everything in the system. So that is one. Visa system, we've been working on an e-visa, but it took time. But now we said, look, let's fast track this thing because it's also getting very competitive within the sector. So somebody who want to travel tomorrow, the borders are open. People say, oh, let me go to Ghana, but it probably will take you about 3 weeks because you have to mail your passport to Washington if you are from in New York, or if you are in California, for example, you have to mail to Washington. If you are London, you have to go and queue and all that. So we are looking at an e-visa process, working strongly with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also the Ghana Immigration Service. And that is something that will also become a game changer when we have our e-visa system in place. Then domestic tourism. We've done a lot of market stimulation with See Ghana, Eat Ghana, Wear Ghana, Feel Ghana. But what we had not done well is how to collaborate with the hoteliers, collaborate with the private sector on granting some decent rates to Ghanaians to travel around. And so a lot of Ghanaians will tell you it probably will cost me almost the same to go to Dubai and back than, let's say, going to the north and staying in, let's say, a hotel like Zena. So what we've done through this period is to engage the Hoteliers Association, the Progressive Hotels Association, on how we can offer some reasonable packages to tourists. And I'm referring to domestic tourists, people who want to go around. And if the rates are much lower, because of the fear of travel, people might choose to, let's say, go to Azim versus Dubai, may want to go to Damongo versus South Africa. So we need to now start looking internally. And like the president always talks about Ghana beyond aid, we need to now start looking at our tourism beyond traveling outside. Although I must say tourism is a two-way street. So in as much as we want people to come in, others will also go. Other than that, the airlines will also not even run. If there's no airline that will come to your destination, if there's no outbound travel. But in the main, and to a very large extent, we can attract local participation in the sector. And then finally, it's also about building capacity of practitioners. I mean, this thing came, and when people were even asked to apply for the World Bank grant facilities, the NBSSI, you realize that the capacity was lacking. And so currently we are working on a hospitality training project to get some satellite schools around the country to be able to train, because a lot of the schools that we have here are for the middle to upper levels of the industry. So if you go to the university or the polytechnics, they don't train, nobody trains the housekeepers, nobody trains the frontline staff. So we have to take it upon ourselves, working with private sector, to build that mass capacity so that service standards in the industry remain high. We're also looking at ways that we can refocus the products a little bit more. For a very long time, we relied on, let's say, Cape Coast and Elmina as our heritage tourism sites. But we know that if you take the story of the slave trade, for example, you can go all the way to Salaga, Golu, Pikoro, Bonomanso, coming all the way down to Asin Praso, Asin Manso before Cape Coast and Elmina. So how do we bring all this into frame? If you recently saw, we had in the papers the redevelopment of slavery routes. Then we also done the craft villages. So people go to, let's say, in Tonso and Sha, Adaomaso, and that enclave. So you go, you would know where they do the kente. You go to where they do the Nyentuma and all those things. So we are working on the product, because if the product is not developed, people will still go out. But if the product is developed, people will want to go to Boire and learn how to make the kente or see it in action. So we have a kente museum that is coming up in Bonre. We have the redevelopment of the Hua craft village, so people can go and see. So all these things are happening within the COVID period, but we've just had to fast track it a bit more so we can get some of the products ready for post-COVID. And post-COVID clearly is coming faster than we all anticipated.
Ghana's tourism industry, taking a look at 2019 was clearly, I would say, one of the best years for Ghana's tourism. And 2020 probably the worst. Taking a look at this sharp contrast between these 2 years, do you think that Ghana's tourism sector will be able to bounce back? And what will it take and how will we do this?
Very, very simply, we are already seeing some movement. I mean, if you look at the month of April, for example, April was probably our worst month ever. Then May was also, but I think when the easing of restrictions on restaurants and hotels started, we started seeing some growth. I mean, hotels in Accra, for example, were suffering a lot because Accra normally gets in the international arrivals, and then the Accra arrivals also go to the regions. So the regions were not doing as bad as Accra was. But with the easing of the restrictions on movement and public gathering, we've started seeing some gradual increase to a point where I think I'm very confident that by the end of 2021, we probably will be closer to pre-2019. You understand what I'm saying? Pre-2019. So right now,
okay, pre-2019.
Because 2019, like you said, it's like a bumper harvest. So we can't get it in 2021. But we are not even close to where we were before the bumper harvest. So we have to get to where we were before the bumper harvest. And so that is where we're doing maybe close to about 900,000 visitors. This year, for example, we're anticipating that best case scenario, we'll do 500,000. Best case scenario. But we are currently around 250,000. So we are hoping that the last maybe September, October, November, December will give us another 250,000. Then we can reach 500,000. That is less than 50% of what we did last year. So we are not deluding ourselves at all that it will just be an easy ride. But we've laid out the steps that we need to take. One is access. And access, we are talking about the airports, the borders, and the visa, which we are working on. Two, the products. So we're currently working on improvement in...
Are you doing visa on arrival now?
No. We are not doing the visa on arrival now, but it's something that we will do for the last quarter. But we are hoping that the e-visa itself will come on stream. Okay. But we are working on a process to do the visa on arrival. Then, so two will be the product itself. So that's why I talked about the crowd villages, the heritage, slave heritage sites project. Then number three is stimulating demand, and that is marketing. And in marketing, we have two legs. The local leg, which is the domestic tourism. So very soon we will have our See Ghana, Eat Ghana, Wear Ghana revived, running again. And then we have the international one, so where we're talking about going beyond the return. So we had a campaign that was running internationally on some platforms, including CNN, and we had to put it on hold. Very soon we'll restart that, so it talks about go beyond the return. So yes, the return was good, but beyond the return you have a land of culture, a land of adventure, a lot of well-known people. So we start selling other things, Ghana, not just heritage tourism. So with these pillars, I think we will be able to do well. And also we're looking at very close collaboration with the private sector. I mean, they are the business end of whatever we do. We will do the marketing. We'll put in place the policies. We will do a few things here and there to stimulate the demand. But if at the shop floor, at the point of sale, people are also not aligned, then things will not happen. And so that is why the capacity building within the industry and bringing everybody along is quite critical to the work that we are doing.
So what role will the private sector play in boosting the tourism sector?
I mean, they have to come to the table, like I've indicated. So in terms of, for example, we know that most of the hotels have excess inventory. So the discussion with them, working with Gatov, is how can we utilize this excess in the inventory to boost demand? When the COVID period happened, we worked with National Security and the Ghana Health Service to use most of these hotels as quarantine facilities. So even when our borders were open and Ghanaians were being evacuated, you remember you had to stay 2 weeks, 14 days, and 38 hotels were chosen as part of that. And they were very, very generous in their pricing. So hotels that normally would charge $300 or whatever were charging in some cases $80 to assist that process. And so what we've told them is that if we could do this, probably because in that case, you had hotels that were full for 2 weeks continuous, although it was at maybe $100 or $80 versus their normal $300. So what we've told them is that now that the business is not at the level that you want, let's use the excess inventory and do deals. So if we had weekend getaways for Ghanaians, stay in a hotel and win something. And so we're going to at least create some excitement. And they are very, very, very open and agreeable to that approach. And so once we launch the See Ghana campaign, you will see a lot of giveaways, a lot of low price deals, weekend getaways and all that. So that will start getting people to go. Because one thing is people don't know the destination Ghana. We stay in Ghana. Some people have stayed in Accra throughout their lives. They've never been to Cape Coast or Afajato, even Kaswa, you know. So we have to let people move. Because once you move, you buy something. You buy food, you buy bread, eggs. I mean, some of the videos that we saw, the year of return, people talking about orange sellers, talking about how much business they did. You know, so sometimes when we talk about these things, people only look at the big operators, but the small business, the one who is selling the egg seller, you know, tea seller by the roadside who people stop to, you know, all of them, the economic activity goes round. Then also the arts and crafts people, we've engaged them strongly. We are currently working on a new arts center, arts village, for them. And the idea is to build their capacity. So in this age where people are not coming, how do you sell to them? So that's where the digital transformation that we are looking at comes in. So we're working with some of them to make sure that their products are available on all platforms. Because a lot of them have stayed at home since March because visitors are not coming. And so we told them, the people are not coming, but they still want that art piece. They still wish that they can buy that cloth. So let's sell it to them at where they are now. And now you can meet them on the virtual platform. So that is also an engagement that is ongoing. So if I put all these things together and I frame it well, I believe strongly that we will get to the pre-2019 levels, hopefully by the end of 2021. But at least for the last quarter of this year, we are in a good place.
That sounds promising and encouraging. Are you planning any specific programs, say concerts, awards, events? Are you planning any programs that will attract international arrival?
Oh yes, I mean already we signed an MOU with Afro Nation. We also have a deal with Afrochella to get it going. Now the extent of the events is something that we are still discussing, because we know that large concerts have still not been open yet. It's the corporate events and awards that have been open. So we've engaged them, we've discussed what is possible, and we cannot advertise these large concerts because the president has not given the go-ahead yet. But definitely things will happen with all these events. So you have the Kente Festival, which Fuse ODJ does, the Afrochella, Afro Nation. Even if it's not on the scale of last year, we will still want to keep that momentum for people to know that these events are Ghanaian events and they will happen once we get back to the normal times.
All right. I think we are wrapping up, but before we go, what are your final words?
Final words, I believe we've kept our own. We've shown resilience as an industry, and so we want to thank our private sector operators who have kept faith with the process that has dragged on for some time in terms of how we find the stimulus packages, how we put together some marketing campaigns. But we've come to a point where everybody agrees that things are improving. And so we will work with them, we will continue to engage and make sure that we bring our tourism back to the levels that it was at least before 2019, the year of return. With the Beyond the Return project currently launched, Ghana is really now also getting back to those conversations among the global African family. And I am very positive that we will do it and we will get there, and 2020 will end on a high for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Kwesi Ajman, CEO, Ghana Tourism Authority. He was our guest for today. We took a look at the impact that COVID-19 has had on Ghana's tourism industry and the reopening of our international airport, Kotoka International Airport. Is it going to make any changes in Ghana's tourism sector? We'll be back shortly.